Hey everyone, welcome to another video about the Selfcurse Trickster. Last time we did the Spark version and this time we're doing Flicker Strike. And the reason for this is because one of my viewers was actually interested in seeing how the Flicker Strike version would turn out because I said that I played it in Scourge League. So here we are doing it once again, and as you can see here by the footage when we're clearing this map is that it's pretty damn crazy because of the amount of attack speed that we have. So me and this viewer sat down in one of my streams and we went over a path of building that I made in order to see if we actually could make this work. And after a couple of iterations we actually managed to make it work without having to play Raider or without having to use any really weird weapons or items like that to actually make it work. But yeah, we finally got it in the end, but it was quite expensive because keeping up frenzy charges for Flicker Strike is quite hard if you're not playing like something like Raider or have a good way of generating frenzy charges. And with the amount of attack speed that we have, it felt very clunky sometimes where you would flicker into like a single target mob, like a boss for example, and then it would just stop all of a sudden because, I don't know, the game just couldn't keep up with the attack speed of us generating frenzy charges. But we managed to make it work in the end, and in this video I'm borrowing the gear that he actually purchased because he was very willing to play this build. I wasn't that willing to play it and invest into it, but he got the gear and I redid my Spark one and I actually tried it out. So yep, here's the footage. Not really a boss killer, so you really shouldn't be focusing on that. It's a pure mapper just like the other Spark version was. And yeah, there's nothing really more to say except for going into the gear and all the other stuff about the build. So when it comes to the gear, I'm going to be quite honest and say that I am borrowing this gear from my viewer Sinners TV. I do have my own set of Flicker Strike gear as I've been playing this character a little bit myself, but Sinners has invested a lot more money than I have into this build and his gear is more complete. For example, he has the replica Abyssus helmet with the Temporal Chains curse effect. He has a really nice weapon. He has absolutely insane gloves. And he has a +1 frenzy charge buckler. So we're going to go over the gear a little bit from the gear that he's given me, and we'll talk a little bit more about the character. So let's start off with the weapon here. We have a triple elemental damage claw weapon. Apparently he tried to use Trinity support, but it wasn't really working out that well. So instead we have a life tap support because of there was some mana issues apparently. But if you can make it work, I do suggest having Trinity if you can get all resonances, because Trinity will actually give you so much damage on top of like what we're playing here, since we're playing so much elemental damage. When it comes to the gloves, Grace, Hatred, Precision, there's supposed to be an Enlighten here, but didn't really need that. And the gloves, we have +1 maximum frenzy charges, and strike skills target 2 additional nearby enemies. This is very good to have if you're playing Flicker Strike. And also 10% chance that if you would gain a frenzy charge, you instead gain up to your maximum number of frenzy charges. And this is actually very important because we were trying out this build quite a bit on stream and we were realizing that maintaining frenzy charges was quite hard when you have as much attack speed as we do. So we needed a reliable way to actually gain frenzy charges. So this was the method that we came up with, and as you could see in the map, it was actually working out quite good. But if you do not have this, then you're absolutely going to be struggling to maintaining frenzy charges for your Flicker Strike. So these pair of gloves, specifically the +1 frenzy charge and the 10% chance that if you would gain a frenzy charge, you instead gain up to your maximum number of frenzy charges, that is the most important thing that you can have on the gloves. Now, when it comes to the boots, we have life resists and, very importantly, increased elusive effect because we are playing with Nightblade support, so that gives us more damage. So increased elusive effect, drop Scorch Ground while moving, lasting 2 seconds. Scorch Ground reduces the enemy's elemental resistances, and this gives us a lot more damage because we're playing elemental on this character. So having Scorch Ground while moving on the boots is absolutely massive for damage. On the ring, I have my own ring here, some stats, some life, some resists, and just non-channeling skills have -7 total mana cost. I'm not sure if this is really needed if you're playing with life tap, as it's something that Sinners was playing with instead. I was using Trinity, so I had this ring before because of that, but it's up to you and you can try this out yourself. For the belt, we have the Selfcurse belt for the Soul Eater doing any flask effect. I covered this in my Spark video. The same goes for the ring with Rockblood Promise here with Temporal Chains. Solstice Vigil with +1 Frenzy Charges, Savagery, Anointed. The helmet here is a Replica Abysses with 30% increased Temporal Chains, Curse Effect, and Shine on it. The reason I went with the Replica Abysses is because it gives a massive amount of damage to this build. The flat elemental damage that it gives and the melee critical strike multiplier is absolutely insane. And then last, for the shield, we have +1 Frenzy Charges because we're playing a Flicker Strike build. So more Frenzy Charges, more damage, and easier for us to sustain those Frenzy Charges as well because of the gloves. When it comes to the skill tree, this is very much the same as we had on our Spark Trickster as well. We try to get as much flask duration as possible through cluster jewels and getting natural remedies. This here now instead, we also have Marked for Death for culling and gain a Frenzy Charge when you hit a marked enemy, so we can sustain Frenzy Charges easier. We also have Fangs of Frost with Code Mastery, we have Thick Skin and everything like that, and we also opt in for Primeval Force. And actually this is not supposed to be that. This is supposed to be... You're not supposed to have the 10% as extra damage of a random element. You're supposed to have 40% increased effect of non-damaging elements because of Scorch Ground. This makes it so Scorch Ground is more effective, and therefore we deal more damage because we lower the enemy's resistances even more. And then Intuitive Leap for all the points that you can see here. And then just your standard claw nodes like Claws of the Magpie, Claws of the Hawk, and then Nightblade have 40% increased effect of Elusive. We also have Life Raker with some Leech and stuff like that. And also very important is From the Shadows. It gives Elusive effect and it gives us the Dagger Mastery. Elusive grants 40% to critical strike multiplier for skills supported by Nightblade as well. Even though these are dagger nodes, these are very good to have if you're playing Nightblade on a claw skill as well, or a claw build. The path of building here is going to be a little bit different because Sinners had to start selling some of the gear and some of the gems, so I wasn't able to borrow that. So in my showcase that you saw earlier in the video, I was using most level 19 gems without quality, and it was still popping off quite good. But here you will see the actual path of building with the actual damage when you do have about 400, 500, 600, 700 Soul Eater stacks. I believe in most maps it's quite easy to get around 1000 Soul Eater stacks, but you get so much attack speed that it's actually hard for the game to keep up with. Like I'm guessing there's like a max attack speed that you can have, so even if you have like 700 or 800, it's the same. If you put 900, it's the same. So it doesn't really matter if you have like 700 Soul Eater stacks or 800, 900, it's not really going to affect you. The last 200 isn't going to do anything because we're hitting our maximum attack rate and then therefore our maximum DPS. But yeah, the PoE is going to look very much the same, except for the skills is going to have the proper gems that you want. You want Awaken Multi-Strike if you're really going hard on this, level 21 gems, and Awaken Elemental Damage with attacks, and Awaken Melee Splash for map clearing if you want that as well. And you want your Anomalous Ice Golem as well, and Mark on Hit with Empower and stuff like that. These are things that I didn't really have in the showcase, but it's very good to have if you want to invest that kind of stuff. And here you can also see the gear a little bit more properly, what you're supposed to have in order to really push this character. But remember, the character does fine anyway. It has an immense amount of damage if you manage to get the Frenzy Charge. If you manage to get the Frenzy Charges properly stacked on your character and that you can sustain them as well, then you should have no problem with this. Also, if you get the Temporal Chains Curse effect on a Replica Abysses, this will help you out quite a bit because the Replica Abysses gives you so much damage, and then the Temporal Chains Curse effect gives you longer flask duration. Then you just pop your flask, go nuts in the map, and you're going to be absolutely destroying everything. But it is also quite worthy to note that this is a very squishy build. Sometimes you can absolutely get smashed to pieces because we rely completely on evasion rating and nothing else, because this is like a meme flicker strike with the Selfcurse Trickster obviously, and therefore you can get destroyed quite a bit if you are very unlucky. So keep an eye out for that. And one last thing that I almost forgot to say as well is that we play with One Step Ahead, Swift Killer, Polymath, Heartstopper, and then if you have the money for it, you can get Forbidden Flame and Forbidden Flesh for opportunistic, which will give you a tremendous amount of damage as well. If we have a look here, depending on where the jewels are, here we go. You can see that this is about 11 million DPS, actually 12 million DPS just for having this for a single target. I do not have it in the showcase because the jewels are not available for me right now because Sinner sold them. But if you have this, you're absolutely going to be popping off in maps. But do remember, this build is not for bossing either. This build is completely designed for mapping. You pop your flask, you get Soul Eater stacks, and you absolutely just zoom through the map with a tremendous amount of attack speed because of Soul Eater. And you cannot really do this on bosses. It's very hard to get your Soul Eater stacks up before certain bosses and even maintaining them if it is a quite long boss fight. So I do not suggest to use this build for bosses. This is just a meme for fun if you want to have something absolutely crazy. Now, a funny thing about the build as well is that you can actually kind of pick which skill you want to play. This right here is me just swapping directly over to Cobra Lash with GMP, because Cobra Lash is one of my favorite skills in Path of Exile. I wish they added MTX to this as well, by the way, but yeah, that's for another video, I guess. But I just wanted to see, like, can I just put like kind of any skill here and just make this work? And as you can see here, yeah, you kind of can. This is the same gear as on the Flicker Strikes. I'm generating friends charges and all that stuff, but as long as you just have any skill that can deal decent amount of damage, and then you just get like 200-300 stacks, you just have a ton of attack speed, and therefore you can just have a ton of damage. So as you can see here, I'm using Cobra Lash, and you could put like Venom Gar or Spectral Throw, or like, I don't know, like Spectral Helix. Like, there's so many things you could put on here and you can make it work, and it would actually be kind of fun and kind of good. So keep that in mind when watching these like Selfcurse Trickster videos and everything, that like there are so many versions of this that you can do if you want to do it. It's very much the generic setup that you want to have a strong Selfcurse, and you want to have flash duration and the belt, and then you can just put on any skill and just go to town basically. Now, remember as well, if you haven't already done this, swing over to my Twitch over at twitch.tv/BurgerBrush, where I'm a full-time streamer and I stream almost daily Path of Exile content. If you have any questions regarding this build or any other build in the game, or anything in the game in general, feel free to ask. Also hang out with the rest of the community. We also have an open guild in the game that you can join if you want to hang out with the community as well. And remember to subscribe here on YouTube, and most important of all, have a fantastic fucking day, my friend.